In this video, we are going to look at running stride length, and we're going to look at how do we improve our stride length. Now, why do we want to do this? Longer stride length will allow us to run faster. So anything from running the 100 meters to something like a 5 or even a 10K, really we're looking to improve our speed, so especially 5K work, which I know is a big target for a lot of people. Shorter strides are really good for endurance, so they're taking less out of the body, there's less impact going through the body. Longer strides if we're really focusing on PBs or shorter distances. So for this, we're going to focus on opening up the front of our body and strengthening up the back of the body. And by this, I mean stretching off our hip flexors. So to extend effectively a longer stride length means we're having to extend hip extension more. So we want to open up the hip flexors on the front to allow that to happen. We also want to strengthen the glutes and strengthen the hamstring to allow us more power as we're pushing back. So again, our stride length is going to be going backwards here. So we want to open up the front, we want to strengthen the back. So this little routine is going to run through exactly how we do this. For it, I'm going to need a tiny bit of equipment. So I have a resistance band here. You can also use a towel if you're doing this at home, and I'll show you how we do that when we come onto it. I also have a Swiss ball. Again, you don't necessarily need a ball, so something like a sofa where you can raise yourself up onto, but the ball is really good because you get that movement throughout when we come onto those. And again, I will show you how you can adapt that for your home environment when we get onto it. So to start with, we're just going to come onto a nice little hip opener. So to do this, you want to just place one foot, so in the half kneeling position, slightly extended with your back leg, and then you just want to drop your leg down. I tend to start most of my routines with this stretch because it's a nice way just to get the hips open and get your glutes working with you. Opens up the lower back a little bit as well as your glutes start to free up. So just get a little bit of a twist in there, feel that work in my left hip flexor, my right glute, and a little bit into the hamstring. From here, I can just put my arm or elbow into my right knee just to push it out to get those adductors and that glute med stretching and working as well. From there, I can just drop myself back a little bit. So again, just starting to work the hamstring and then roll forward. So we're going right hamstring, left hip flexor. And again, just oscillate through those and just start to feel everything loosening and then freeing up. I'm going to swap my legs, so left leg forward, again, knee just further than, so we're going into a little bit of hip extension already. Again, just dropping my hips down towards the floor, and I can feel my right hip flexor, and then I can feel my left glute and the top of that hamstring. Get my right elbow in to push that knee out. I can feel, again, still right hip flexor, and then starting to work the adductors on my left leg as well. And then rolling back just to get that hamstring starting to work as well. From here, I'm then going to swap into my original leg. I'm going to bring my body up, and then I'm just going to bring, so again, we're going straight now with the leg, and then 90 degrees at the hip. From here, I want to raise my arms up, and I just want to oscillate through that hip flexor. So I'm just slightly pushing my glutes and my body weight forward, and I can just feel that pull in, so sort of getting into TFL and in the hip flexor just in here. So as I oscillate forward, I can just start to feel that pull on that hip flexor, and again, it's just opening up nicely. So little oscillations, just getting those muscle spindles and Golgi organ tendons in the muscle just to relax off and allow me to go a little bit further each time. Breathing throughout, trying to stay nice and relaxed. So uncomfortable as I feel the stretch, but it's not causing me pain. It's not causing my body to stress or tense up a little bit. So then swap onto the other leg and exactly the same thing. Arms up and then getting a nice stretch over that hip. So the front of the hip and a little bit of the side of the hip. Exactly where your TFL sits. So hip flexor muscle. So obviously to stretch it, we need to go into hip extension, and that's exactly how we're going to lengthen our stride. And again, just oscillate in and feel it relaxing off and allowing us to go a little bit further each time. From here, if we go back onto the original leg, we can then, so you can either use something behind you to push your knee up, or you can just use your hand. So from here, we want to go into the neutral position. You want to feel a tiny, tiny little stretch on your hip flexor. And then from there, just lean back, and you want to pull your leg up to go into that quad stretch. And this will be a little bit more extreme. You'll feel it a little bit lower down your quad as well. And again, trying to keep your body nice and upright into that position. Initially, this can feel quite tight, especially if you sit quite a lot, have a desk job, or you drive quite a lot. And again, we're just trying to keep our core nice and tight and just push the hips forward to increase that stretch. Relax that one back down and swap onto your other leg. If you find that's too sore on your knee because it's in that flexed position, just place a little pillow under your knee so you're not pressing it too hard into the floor, especially if you have struggled with patellofemoral syndrome or anterior knee pain in the past. And again, bring your leg back up, get that quad on stretch, body nice and upright, and then just ease into the stretch. And again, feel that in your hip flexor, but also slightly lower down, so we're getting across that quad into that rectus femoris, which runs from the hip all the way down across the knee into that patella tendon. Keep breathing throughout and just relax into the stretch. From here, we're now going to start to focus on the posterior, or the back of our body. So looking at hamstrings in particular, runners tend to have very tight and short hamstrings. So we're trying to strengthen, but also we're going to try and loosen them up a little bit as well. This is where my band comes into play. So again, if you have a towel, just use the same thing. So you're going to wrap the towel around the bottom of your feet. From here, we're going to go into what is called baby pose. So we're going to go onto our backs and then bring our legs up and start to squeeze down into our body. This is where we use the band, or we can use the towel to really squeeze our legs down in. Once we're in this position, what we're going to do is one at a time, we're just going to start to push up on that band or on the towel, trying to get your legs straight, but trying to keep the resistance on the band. So keep pulling with your hands down as you're pushing up with your legs. As we do this, we should feel the hamstring go on to stretch at the end. So we're really trying to push straight up above our head, straight towards the ceiling. So try not to let your legs slip down, try and keep them in and pushing up. Feel the stretch as you straighten your leg on that hamstring. By doing it under resistance, this is effectively what's called a PNF stretch, or proprio neurofacilitation. One of the best ways to increase elasticity within the muscle. And again, try and do 10 reps, so 5 on each side, and then just let your legs relax back down. Get them out in front, just give them a little stretch off, and then we're going to go back into that same position. This time it should feel a little bit easier. And again, we can really focus on getting a nice strong pull on that band. So roll onto our backs, bring our legs all the way up, knees down towards our chest or our face, and then again push up, and you should feel that all the way down your hamstring, and then relax and push up with your right. A little bit of glute function there as well. Really focusing on allowing our hamstrings to push out, so when we come into our stride length, they're not restricting us. And again, we're going to go for 10 reps, 5 on each side. And relax down. From here, we're going to flip back over. We're still focusing on that posterior chain, and this is where our ball comes into play. So if you have a Swiss ball like this, perfect. If you have a sofa or something like that, you won't be able to get the movement or the roll, but you can still use the exercise. So all we're going to do, bring the Swiss ball quite close to you to start with, and then effectively a glute bridge, but we're glute bridging up onto the ball. So up onto the ball, get your feet flat, and then we're just going to roll our heels across the ball as we push it out. Keep your body nice and firm, so you don't want your glutes to lag, and then we're just going to bring it back in. And we're really working the hamstrings as we push out. So again, we're getting that eccentric movement and then concentric movement onto those hamstrings. And we're going to go for 5 reps to start with. Back in, and we should feel our core working nicely, glutes working, and we're really working those hamstrings quite hard. Try and stay nice and stable on the ball, and then relax back down. Again, if you're just using a sofa, so in effect just the box there, place your feet up on the box onto the sofa, and then just push yourself up from the sofa. You're not going to be able to get the roll out, but you are still working those hamstrings nicely. Have a little rest in between, and then when you're ready, we're going to go back up onto the ball. So heels on the ball. As we push up, we can get our feet flat. Stay nice and tight with the core as we roll out and as we roll back in. And again, 5 reps. Try and keep breathing throughout. Keep the oxygen flowing through your body. Nice and strong with the core. Keep the glutes up. You don't want to lag with your glutes. And repeat for 5 reps. Nice and controlled movements, and really start to feel the hamstrings working there. As you progress and get better, you can add in sets. So start with 5 reps for 2 sets, and then you can start to add in another set. So go to 3 sets. Once you've done that, try and get to 10 reps. So then do 10 reps for 2 sets, and then add in 10 reps for 3 sets. That's a really important one for runners, so really getting that hamstring to strengthen and also allow that movement, so the eccentric movement within it. Once we're nice and warm with both our anterior and our posterior, we can then go into leg swings. Leg swings are a great dynamic movement, so once we've done our little warm-up or a little pulse raiser pre-run, leg swings are a really good way to get the muscles working, get the glutes working, get the quads working, and get those hamstrings nice and stretched out. So it's going to be as simple as you can use something to balance yourself, or if you're really strong and your glute medials are working well, you can do it without. So to start with, we just want to start by swinging back only. So we're just getting that glute to contract and allowing the hip flexor to let us go. So again, if we're thinking we want to loosen off here and we want to strengthen the back, and we want to do 5 of those, and then same leg, try and stay on the one leg for each time. So we're working our left as well, and then we're going to go out in front. And again, same thing is happening here. So as the posterior is relaxing to allow that movement to happen, the anterior is working to contract it and pull it up. So we're working both, and we're going to go 5 out to the front. We then also want to go out to do abduction. So we're starting to pull from the glute med a little bit here as well. So exactly the same principle. So we're just going out from there. And again, it's strong on the way out, and then we're controlling it as we come back in. So we're still getting that eccentric movement into it. And we're going to go for 5 of those. And then we're going to repeat the same on our left leg. So we want to go out for 5. So fast and then slow back in, 4 and 5, and really try and extend out as far as you can. And then the same here, so really try and get that nice and high. Try and keep the leg straight. So we go for 5, and then we're going to go for abduction for 5 as well. And really try to feel the squeeze on the outside of your leg. Once we've done all of those, we can then go into the full dynamic movement of leg swings, so ballistic stretching in effect. So we want to go out and back, and again we're really focusing on trying to stay in control and increasing that leg swing as we go. So again, all we're trying to do here is increase our stride length. We're trying to increase the movement around our hip. So I should be on a fence there, a little bit of balance. And then again, same thing with our left leg. So forward and back, forward and back. Again, staying, using my arms a little bit to stay in control. With balance again. Again, use a wall, use a fence, a post, anything just to keep you nice and balanced if you're out doing this for a run or if you're doing it at home. We're then going to go, exactly same thing, but we're going to go sideways. So a little bit difficult without a balance, but we're going to try and go as far across as we can and then as far out as we can. And again, same process. So getting that ballistic stretch going. It's quite nice to do this without a balance. You can see my left leg is actually working quite hard to keep me balanced there. So I'm using my glute as well. It's a good way to do it if you can. And again, same with my left. So really starting to get those glutes working and turn them on. We are going to then focus on glute and hamstring function in a minute as well. Okay, so leg swings, everything should feel really nice and loose now. Hamstrings should feel like they're working nicely. From here, we're going to go onto all 4s, and then we just want to start to go into what's called a donkey kick. So again, glute engagement, trying to strengthen that glute a little bit. So when we do leg stride, we're going back for a long way. We want it to be nice and explosive. Again, we're thinking speed, trying to increase our times when we're running faster. So we want nice, big, strong glutes to allow us to do that. So from here, keep your core nice and tight, and then just a really big squeeze up. And feel that pull. It should be more from the glute than it is from the hamstring. Glutes should be nicely switched on by now. And we're just going to go for 5 really strong reps. And then we're going to swap over. We're keeping our core nice and tight, trying to keep those hips nice and stable and level. And again, 5 on this side. Same as we did with the leg swings. We're going to go out to the side, get that glute med working nicely as well. We go for 5 again. Try and keep the core nice and tight. And then swap over. Nice for the knee stabilization. If you've seen the leg alignment and stabilization video, that's a nice movement to do. So again, if we're running faster, we're putting, just increasing our stride length, we're also putting a little bit more stress through the body. So that knee stabilization, really important. So get those glute means working nicely, which we were doing just there. For this, we can use a little bit of a weight. So if you have got something like a kettlebell, if you haven't, to start with, body weight is fine. What we're going to do is a variation of Romanian deadlift. So it's going to be a single leg deadlift in effect. So to start with, what we want to do is we want to get on 2 just to get the form correct. We want to just keep our core really nice and tight. We're hinging from our hip, not from our knee. And that's how we're going to get the stretch into the hamstring. You'll know you're doing this one properly if you feel it on your hamstring as you get to the bottom, so you should feel a nice stretch. So to start with, we're just going to reach down. We're going to feel our hamstrings start to get tight. For me, it's around there. And then we're just going to keep everything nice and tight as we stand back up. And then again, back down. Feel the hamstrings tighten and really feel that pull through the hamstring. We're then going to add in a weight, so we can do this with still on 2 feet. We're dropping down. Again, we're hinging from the hip, knees nice and solid. Feel that in the hamstring, and then we're just pulling back up, and we're getting a nice squeeze at the top. And we can just repeat through that. Experiment with the weight. You can go quite heavy with this. Hamstrings nice and strong. So really do experiment with the weight that you're doing there. So standard RDLs. And then from there, to start with, we're going to drop the weight to just body weight. We're going to go onto one leg, and we're going to go exactly the same movement. So knee nice and solid, feel it in the hamstring, and then back up. Try and stay on one leg throughout. So as we're hinging from our hip, we're going down, keeping the knee solid. Try not to bend the knee, so we feel it in the hamstrings again. And then we're going to pull up. And between, we're trying to not rest. So we're trying to stay on that one leg. And we're going to try and do this for 5 reps. Again, back up. By now, our hamstrings are really starting to work hard, so especially with those rollouts. And now this. Again, keeping the balance. And back up. I'm going to go for 1 more rep. Make sure you feel that on your hamstring. If you're not feeling it in your hamstring, you're probably bending your leg. So keep that knee nice and straight. Swap over onto our left, and exactly the same. So down, feel the hamstring stretch, and back up. A little bit more unstable on my left leg. I know my left glute isn't quite as strong. Something for me to work on, and back up. Again, find your balance in between. Back down, feel the hamstring, up. Again, we're going to go 5 unweighted, and back up. Exactly the same principle applies when we add a weight. All this time it's going to be a little bit harder on the way up. So onto one leg, you want to place the weight pretty much in front of the leg that you're working. Get your balance, knee a little bit flexed. So if you watch from the side, so I am going to flex my knee initially just to make it a nice strong balanced core, and then from there I'm going to be stable, and I'm going to try and not bend that knee anymore. When I get to here, feel that on hamstring. If I was to bend my knee, I can go a lot lower, but I'm not using my hamstring as much. So I want to make sure I'm getting that stretch on the hamstring. So here we go. So this is 6 kilograms. Again, experiment with the weight. When you're doing 2, you'll be able to lift quite a lot more. And when you go back onto 1, good form is essential. So keeping that knee exactly where it is, nice and stable, not flexing too much. So get your form correct before you're trying to lift too much weight. So again, I'm hinging from my hip. I'm going down, grabbing the weight, and then I'm coming back up. Again, try and stay stable at the top, and then I'm going back down, keeping the knee straight. Now I've got the weight, I can go a little bit straighter with my knee, so it's not necessarily touching the floor, and I'm coming back up. When I do come back up, I want to make sure I'm really getting full extension, so I don't want to be doing a half rep, so I want to be going all the way back up and really locking my legs out to make sure I'm getting full contraction of my hamstrings and my glutes. Again, we're going to go for 5 reps here. So we're going to go 3, 4, and 5. Place the weight back down. And again, I really feel my hamstrings working nicely now. This is a great exercise for strengthening those hamstrings. Good one for if you're rehabbing from hamstring tendinopathy, or if you struggle with your glutes, you know your glutes are a little bit lazy. Really, really good exercise for that as well. So here we go onto my slightly weaker leg. See how this goes for me. So again, keeping everything nice and solid. Down we go, picking up the weight, back up, and then really going full contraction to getting the body nice and straight. back down, feel the hamstring, push up, core nice and tight, and up. I'm going to the point where I feel the stretch in the hamstring, so I start to feel it there. I'm going to go a little bit more, and then back up, and we're going to go for one more. If it's the first time you've done those, 2 sets will be plenty, 5 reps, 2 sets. If you have done those before, you can lift higher weight. You can then start to think about the endurance side of it as well. So if you're trying to run 5Ks, there's a lot of repetitions. So increase your sets and increase your reps, and then also increase the weight as well. But I'd increase your reps and your sets before you start adding on more weight. The last little thing we're going to do, again, we're trying to get a dynamic stretch into our posterior chain. So we're just going to do walkouts. So we're going to start into the downward dog position. We're just going to get a nice stretch along that posterior chain, and then from here with our hands we're just going to walk ourselves back up and stand upright. The key for this is trying to keep our knees straight as long as we can, and then on the down phase we're trying to keep our heel on the floor as long as we can. So trying to keep my knees straight, and then once I've made contact I'm trying to keep my heels down and then walk out, and then same thing, so touch with my heels as soon as I can and keeping my knees straight for as long as I can. A lot of runners, football players, things like that, tend to get quite short hamstrings, as I do, so this can be quite difficult to start with. So if you can't quite keep your knees straight throughout, a little bend is okay, as long as you can feel that work in your posterior chain. Feel it through the back of the knee, feel it through the calves, the Achilles, and up into that hamstring. And we're just going to go for 5 of these to finish off the routine. I'll show you one more. Quite nice for the core as well, so try and keep the core nice and tight as you do that, and then back up we come. And that is the full routine. Don't do that before or after a run, so do this separate to your running time. Because of the strength element, it is fatiguing the body a little bit, so you don't want to be doing that before a run. Really, really nice exercise. If you are trying to run quicker, that will massively help. It will lengthen your stride, it will help your contraction of your glutes and your hamstring. So if you're trying to aim for that 5K PB, if you're an 800, 1500 meter runner, really, really good exercises to be doing for you. We'd also advise looking at explosive power, so plyometrics training is fantastic for that. If you've never done plyometrics training before, we have a video for beginners, and I will put that at the bottom of this video so you can link through to it. Definitely something worth thinking about and having a look at, especially if you've been injury free for a while. It's a nice way to introduce yourself to that plyometrics movement. I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it helps you run a little bit faster. I hope it helps you achieve that PB that you might have been chasing for a while. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this content, and keep your eyes peeled for lots more coming your way.